Hi, this is Mark News from Plant Talk Radio. Thanks for subscribing and listening to our podcast, Your Gardening Questions from Plant Talk Radio. If you have a gardening question you'd like our host Fred Howard to answer, send him an email. The email address is fred@planttalkradio.com. Now for today's question.
Hi, how you all doing?
We're doing fine. The sun's up, and so are we, Olga.
Great. Well, I have a question about my geranium.
Okay.
It's in a pot from last year, and I overwinter it in my sunroom. It's full of buds, but I need to repot it to a bigger pot. Should I take all those,
the flower buds?
all those bloom buds out before I repot it?
Well, Olga, I'm going to tell you it's going to be dependent on how careful you are. And by that meaning that the roots that are in the present pot are already supporting X number of flowers. Now then, if you do not disturb the root mass when you go to the next size pot, and I'd only go up 1 inch or so, and set it down in gently, pack the new potting soil around it and so on to where you're not disturbing those roots, it will be less necessary to do it. Now, it will help because for a plant to flower, it is taking extra energy, etc. So you would not be remiss to remove some of the flower buds or the stems that they're growing on. But I don't think when you're being careful that it would be such a mandate. There is a factor that had to do with common thought, and I was one of them. Used to think that when you took a plant out of the ground, root ball or bare root or whatever, you had to thin out the top considerably because of the loss of roots. Well, there is a loss of roots, no question about it. Many times when you dig a tree, you leave 40% of the roots in the ground in the nursery. However, it has been studied through much research, and it's become adamant in all people's minds that you shall leave the leaves on because they have to absorb the sun to make the energy to build a new root system. Now, it's kind of a debate there. Once in a while, when you are moving a tree or a geranium, if there are crossed branches and there's reason to prune the plant anyhow, that's an ideal time to do it because you're kind of relieving the load on the root system. But I won't make it a mandate. Knowing you to have asked questions over the years, I have a hunch you're pretty careful. So I'm gathering that you could do it without disturbing the roots. Now, on the other side of that,
it's root bound.
Okay,
it's root bound because it was in a hanging plant all last year.
Okay.
And I just kept it in that pot.
Yeah.
So.
Well, and sometimes, and this is kind of hard to explain, but sometimes plants actually are better off being root bound. But I was going to suggest that the next step would be to go to a larger hanging basket or container of your choice and do some thinning of the top. And then, by all means, use a razor knife or what have you, and on the perimeter of the roots that are bound up and probably the same shape as the pot, cut down in by about 1/8 of an inch from top to bottom at about 3-inch intervals all the way around that root mass, and get those roots to stop spiraling as they have been doing in the old container. Then they'll grow out into the new soil, and you'll have let's just say, a happier plant after the transplant.
And Olga, knowing the way you always talk with us, I think your geraniums are going to be just fine.
I think so, too. And I was going to mention to her that she could probably be taking cuttings. I would take the flower off, but then the stem that it's on, if she could take a 2 or 3 inch cutting, and I have to limit now. If she does more than 50, she's got to get a nursery dealer's license. But she could probably take cuttings from this geranium, the size that it is, and start some new plants if she wants to have some fun doing that. So we'll see. If she calls back, we'll talk about how to do it right up to the 49th plant.
Hey, thanks again for listening to our podcast. Be sure to subscribe to our other podcasts as well, the Plant of the Week podcast and the Plant Talk Radio podcast, all on iTunes or your favorite podcast player. If you'd like to sponsor a daily podcast, contact us at fred@planttalkradio.com. To find out more about Fred Hauer and Plant Talk Radio, visit our website, planttalkradio.com.
Circle270media.com